Welcome to the Rebound Rundown. I'm your host, Paul Fritschner. This is your daily digest college basketball show that covers everything you need to know about your favorite team. From game previews to recap to press conferences and breakdowns, we have you covered. Every Monday through Friday with your morning commute, wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Welcome into another episode of the Rebound Rundown. I'm your host, Paul Fritschner. As you just heard in that intro, this is a show that covers college basketball every Monday through Friday during the season. But as we continue throughout the offseason, we have another stop on our coaching carousel. And today it is out in Las Vegas with the head coach of the Runnin Rebels, Josh Pastner. It's great to be here with you, Coach Pastner.
Paul, thanks for having me. Let me just tell you this. I love the red polo. And I would also tell you that in prepping for this, I'd seen a couple of the other things that other interviews you've done.
Okay.
You do a really good job, and your team behind the scenes does a really good job. So I don't know how far you want to take this into your career, but I think you have a shot to be really, really good. Other people have spoken very highly about you. So credit to you, and looking forward and happy to be sitting alongside you. And I'll try to have some good energy, so this is one of your best interviews and get you the most hits. Maybe we can go viral. Who knows what can happen from there? You know what I mean?
We're off to a fantastic start,
there you go.
Right?
There you go.
So let's get started with getting here to Las Vegas, right? You have 2 years off in between your last stop at Georgia Tech. You come here to UNLV. And I just want to ask you to begin this. You go into TV and you get this kind of maybe a fresh perspective, right? And you come back and NIL is what it is. And what do you feel like you learned the most in those 2 years between then and now?
Yeah, well, let me just first say this. I love my time in television. Okay. Loved it. And I was fortunate enough to work for great networks, ESPN, CBS Sports, NBC, Turner. Worked for great producers, bosses, colleagues. I had a blast doing it. And the experience to go from different networks and see how different things are done from different angles. Not everyone gets that opportunity. So it was really, really cool. I loved every second of it. And I had some other opportunities, but to go back into coaching during those 2 years.
Sure.
But I just wasn't, two things. One, I didn't feel I was ready. Like I wasn't as, because I was loving television.
Okay.
So I wasn't maybe as physically and mentally ready to go jump in and take a job. And I also thought some of the opportunities that happened that were offered to me, I didn't think it was better than the TV spots I had. You know this, being in the world that you're in. And I understood it. The area that I was in television, getting in those studios, in those areas, yeah. It's like almost as hard as it's like becoming a head coach at the Division I level. It's so darn hard. And I wasn't taking it for granted. And so to be in that chair was awesome. So for me to leave that, it would have to have been something special. And UNLV was special. Being at the University of Arizona as a player, being at University of Arizona as an assistant coach, being in the West Coast, I always loved the UNLV job. Coming here for 30 years, coaching, because my dad used to run AAU tournaments, and he still does, runs big tournaments here in Las Vegas. So I've been coming to Vegas for so long. I've always felt this job is sort of like a sleeping giant, especially on the West Coast. And obviously Coach Tarkanian in that 80s and 90s run, the reason Las Vegas is the capital of the sports world right now and the capital of the entertainment world is because of the foundation that Jerry Tarkanian's, Runnin Rebel basketball team, their staff and their players set forth. And then obviously there were some good Lon Kruger had a great run. Dave Rice had a couple great years. So you look at it, I just think this is a sleeping giant. It is, they love basketball. I really feel like it's similar to Memphis in a way, with the intensity of the job, the love for hoops in the community, and we just got to try to get it back. And it's not going to be easy. There's going to be some challenges. There's no doubt about that. I've been everywhere 24/7. Like this city's a 24/7 city. The head coach better be 24/7. And so you've got to be just thinking about it. I have an obsession about it. It's all just the way my mind's working 7 days a week. And I've loved it. I've loved being able to be back. I love coaching. I love being around the young, being around young guys to try to develop them and teach them and being back on the floor, the competition, the opportunity to compete with a scoreboard. There's all kinds of things in a great basketball conference in the Mountain West. So I'm not trying to take all the time on the interview, but I'm a great filibuster, by the way, and I could just keep going on.
I'm so fired up now, Coach.
But that's kind of how I am,
fired up.
And so I'm really happy being at UNLV.
That's fantastic, and you could see that. You were talking about looking at some of the stuff we've done, getting ready for this. I'm sitting there reading articles about you, and after getting hired, and some of those things that you were talking about, where you're going out onto the street, right? You're trying to re-engage this fan base that you, like you just said, you feel like is a sleeping giant. So how are you engaging the community? Like, what were some of the priorities that you felt like right away, you had to go out and do?
You know what? And you'll have an understanding of this, and you're better looking than me and younger than me. So both
I'll
of
take
you,
the younger part,
you're going for both. But I will say this. You understand that, social media, how the phones for young people and everything else. I still think there's an avenue when you're building a program. And look, you get this. You've been around sports. You got to win, and winning solves a lot, and winning's going to bring people. But it's sort of it's like the chicken or the egg came first. The same thing. Do you need to get the fans in and then you win, or do you win then you get the fans? You need everyone together in it. And so, as much as social media is important, and getting your message out via the phone and all the media, I still think there's a place for grassroots. When I say grassroots, kind of boots to the ground, meaning getting out there and speaking at as many events. So you get to see people face to face in live opportunities, really getting in the community as much as you can, going to the different events. So as important as media, social media, being on television, Instagram, X, Snap, I could go on and on. I still think there's a place speaking at the Chamber of Commerce, speaking at the different Rotaries, getting out at the different schools and the different community, so they're hearing your message and feeling you face to face. And in a place like this, I have no desire. I don't want to run for Senate or Congress or mayor or governor or I'm a basketball coach, but it's sort of like in a way of when you're running for public office. You got to be out shaking hands and meeting people, and so in that way that you're trying to galvanize this, really get the city together and get everyone on board. So in that way, and then also fundraising. In a way, you've got to be out and you've got to be enjoying the fundraising part of it. Because if you have if you're not excited and enthused about being around people, in this new climate, it's not going to work. And so I'm big about, you're going to have to go to a lot of lunches and dinners and try to, foster the relationships to be able to raise money. Because that's just as important as coaching. It is also fundraising, because in this climate, you're able to get great players just by outpaying a school financially. So, and the last thing is, I love the way the new rules are set. I think it's way more efficient. I loved recruiting. Always loved recruiting. But in the old days, when I was coaching, assistant and head coach, you would be recruiting a guy, chasing a guy for 2 to 3 years, and then you don't get him. You're devastated. And if you get him, it's elation, but you literally spent 2 to 3 years of your life chasing this young person who haven't played at your school. Now it's 2 to 3 weeks. Hey man, Jimmy Joe, man, I really like him. I'm calling the agent. Like, tell me that, like, what's the number? Like, where are we at with it? Hey, he's I'm so far, we're so far off, can't do it. If something changes, call me back. Next kid. Hey, I really like, hey man, we can get in this ballpark. This is where we're at. Boom. Then we're on it. And 2 to 3 weeks later, he's pretty much signed. And it's so much more efficient, and you don't waste time. And who likes to waste time? So I really like this new model.
Yeah, well, it's so interesting hearing you say all of that, because every coach has such a different perspective.
Most coaches are negative about it.
A lot of coaches would say that it's just changed so much. You've seen a lot of retirements. You've seen a lot of coaches just be sour, negative, whatever it is. Then you're also seeing a lot of coaches that we've had on the rundown throughout the summer that have come to me and said, I am fired up about this because it's a new challenge. It's something different. It's something we're trying to embrace. But to hear you say that, and I think the other thing that you've talked about too, Coach, is when you get hired, it used to be you were going out to high school events, right? But now right away, we have to put a roster together. We got to hop in the portal and we got to put a roster together right away. And so even just the logistics of the first few days after you get hired are different.
Well, 3 things. One is, I had a coach tell me that they want to go to the Final Four every year, not to go to the Final Four, but to avoid having to recruit in the portal right afterwards. I had a coach tell me that. I thought that was interesting. He goes, Coach, go to the Final Four. I just want to go extend the season as long as I can to avoid having to go and lose our whole team and restart. That's one. Two is I can't speak for all these legendary coaches that have retired or have, stepped down. But I think and I've obviously have spoken to some of them and I've worked alongside some of them just as in terms of in the television. It's interesting. I think, and just my personal opinion, that some of them are like, you know what? I don't want to start every single year, the year's finished and got to rebuild a whole new team. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
Season's done, and then you got the next literally 2 months that you're trying to sign. It could be 8 guys, 7 guys, 9 guys, 13 guys. Like when I took over here, we literally had to sign 13 new players. So you're starting over almost every single year. That can get exhausting, especially as you get older in your age. If you don't have that excitement and enthusiasm, maybe as you did in a decade ago,
sure.
I can see where it can wear on you. But as you mentioned, the third thing I was going to say is that yes, my other previous 2 stops. When I took over, our team was pretty much already set. Yeah, you might go get a guy who's a late unsigned senior somewhere. But, the first week or 2, you're out there touching base all the AAU coaches, the high school coaches, making sure you protect your home, your home base, checking on seeing the upcoming juniors and sophomores. When I got the job here, my first month, there was no going around seeing high school recruits or the first month I had to go out and raise money.
Yeah.
Because I had to sign 13 new players because when I took over, everybody was in the portal. So we had to go raise money. I go raise money from everybody. And that was the big difference. And not, whereas back in the day when you're raising money, it was maybe for a locker room, for something, put your name on the floor. Now it's, hey, I need the money so we can go compete at the highest level and getting the best players. And so that's the big difference of what of where it probably is today than ever before.
Yeah, because you look at schools that maybe just upgraded their facilities right before NIL took off, and they're probably in the best position out of anybody from a facility standpoint, because right now if you're fundraising, like you said, that's going... Well,
you have to have a choice. You can't... So, Paul, if I'm coming to you to fundraise and I'm asking you to make an even number of $100,000, I can't say, hey, you're not going to give me $100,000 for the locker room and $100,000 to go get a player, and I'm going to have to make a choice. What's my ask?
Yeah.
And now, not everyone is for the NIL, especially some people say, you know what, I'm just not for that. You know what I'm saying? But I'll donate it to you for the locker room. Because not everyone's on board, because it's been kind of ingrained that you don't pay guys. And now it's not everyone is for that. Now some boosters are, some supporters are, some aren't. So there still is an avenue with that. That's why the revenue share is really important, because it can get just tiresome going to the same person over and over. And I'm sure they would get tired of it. You're asking for money for a player that might only be there for a year and you don't really get to know them. That's how important the revenue share is, because then it comes more from the school.
Yeah.
The second thing is I really think they need to have a salary cap. And I don't know if anything will change unless my personal opinion, because it's, we can call it NIL. It's really pay to play. Let's just go right to the reality of it. It's just, you're just paying to play. But I only think the way they need to have a salary cap, but the only way to get to that, either it's got to be a federal law by the federal government for all 50 states are under the same guidelines, bylaws, and there's no more lawsuits.
Yeah.
Or the student athletes have to become employees, and they got to form a union, and then they have a collective bargaining agreement. Anything other than those 2 options, I don't know how. It's just always going to be just up and down, wildness and lawsuits.
Well, how do you even know which governing body or which legislation to follow, which rule-making establishment?
But Paul, there's NCAA rules.
That's what I mean.
There's state rules that so like NCAA rule says you can't do this, but the state law says you can do this. So you're right, and that's my point. Either a federal law's got to happen, so all 50 states are under the same guidelines, or it's there's got to be the student athletes have to become employees, and they have a collective bargaining agreement, and that way you're sort of in a union in a sense, and you're able to avoid lawsuits, and this is what we've agreed upon. Anything in between, I don't see how it's just going to continue to be sort of wildness, as you mentioned, because every state has different things that you're allowed and not allowed to do that technically supersede the NCAA rules. And, a lot, if these schools are public universities, not private, a lot of the, institutions that are not private or public, they're adhering to the state. You know what I mean? That's just the reality of it.
So how do you come to how do you get down to it at the end of the day to try and figure out with players and negotiating and doing all of these things when you're actually trying to get into the nuts and bolts of building a roster and you want to find players that fit your style, that you want to fit your character and all of that, but also financially have to make sense for your roster? How do you prioritize, you personally?
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, I think alignment is so important. Alignment is critical. So everyone's got to be aligned to what I believe is just really important for the program. I would also say, secondly, that, here you have your budget and then you got to be within your budget. Like we kind of had a Moneyball approach it in a sense when I got the job here and figure it out. And I said, and thirdly, you got to be, I think it's not recruiting. I think evaluation is so darn important, more so than ever before, because the evaluation of a prospect that you're watching in a short amount of time, especially if it's a portal kid, young man that you're watching, see what he's done in college, short amount of time, you have to make a decision, and then you've got to put a price tag on it. You got to say, okay, he's really good. Am I willing to spend this? Because if the agent says, hey, this is what we're going for, and you say, man, I really want it, but I just can't do it. Or you got to then make your evaluation, not only is he good enough, but then you got to evaluate kind of what are you willing to spend on that individual, and how are you going to do your budget on that? So there's a lot to be in it. And the more you go back to the donors asking for a lot of money, the donors can become owners now, and so it's a really fine line in so many different areas the way you look at it. And I just think evaluating, finding that still, yes, everyone's getting paid, but still finding guys where diving on the floor and that loose ball and winning that possession is more important than breathing.
Do you have
that? You still got to find guys like that, regardless because this. I don't care if it's pro sports or college sports. You can have the most money or the highest payroll. It does not guarantee you to win the national. If that was the case, the Yankees would win the World Series every single because they have the highest payroll, or the Dallas Cowboys would win the Super. It doesn't, just because you have the most highest payroll doesn't guarantee automatically you're going to win every game. That's where, because this isn't tennis or golf, it's still a team sport, and you still got to have chemistry, camaraderie, togetherness. All those things that go into winning still got to matter. That's still involved that you're looking for when you're looking at the finances.
Deer Park Roofing has been providing elite service for homes and businesses since 1996 and leads the industry in professionalism, quality, and responsiveness. So whether your needs are residential or commercial, Deer Park can handle any job and ensure it's done right. Deer Park's motto is, protect what's important. And what's important to you is important to Deer Park Roofing. Visit deerparkroofing.com today. deerparkroofing.com.
What makes us human? Humanity is found in the actions that redefine care. Actions that we at TriHealth take every day. By seeing those who feel invisible, hearing needs that have been ignored. TriHealth is healing the body and the human spirit, so all can know and live a better life.
You look at it throughout college and you hear all these reports of this team is the highest paid roster, this team has an incredibly financially, high roster, and you're just...
Well, Paul, you were talking like now in football, and I don't know this is just from me being a football fan. You read that Ohio State had the highest money last year roster, and they ended up winning the national championship.
Yeah.
So it was like they spent at the level and it worked itself out. So, and again, I don't know if that's true or not, but that was what the reports were, that they were the highest
lack
paid.
of transparency is...
That's another thing. There needs to be more. Everyone needs to have transparency in this. I don't want to be... If I'm recruiting you, I don't want to bid against my own self. So the agent might say, hey, this is what he's going for, but am I really, because school XYZ are saying this is what they'll pay, but is that really true or not? We all don't know. There needs to be more transparency, how we do that. That's where I'm going back to either they become employees or there's a federal law. Anything in between, I don't think we're going to get that full transparency.
So there used to be, you couldn't transfer at all. And, well, you had to sit out the year. Then you had the one-time transfer rule, and now this unlimited transfer rules. Do you have any thoughts on the portal and where it is right now?
I know this will probably be a different than everyone else's take. I don't mind the portal. I mean, it is what it is. Everyone can transfer as right now as much as they want, and I'm fine with it.
Okay.
No issue. I know that the team that we have, I hope they all would have come back, but I also know that I could lose all 13 guys who want to go in the portal and see their market value, and I got to go get 13 new players, 15 new players. And so I don't have a problem with it. What I would like for it to happen, these are my two stickler points. One, there needs to be a clock, a time limit, an expiration date for college athletics. There can't be playing when they're 27, 28, 29. You got to have, and I understand.
Collect an AARP.
Yeah, like there's, and I understand there might be, there's maybe a military service, or religious exemption. I understand that. But you really have got to have at some point, like this is your 5-year window, and everyone's saying 5 years and you get 5 years of eligibility. So with the second you graduate high school, you have 5 years to play college athletics. That's just it. Whenever you're graduating class. So whatever your graduating class. So if you didn't graduate high school and you took another year, that clock starts. And you have 5 years. You can go to junior college for a year, 2 years, whatever. 5 years to play 5. That's one. Two, so I think you don't want to have guys playing 27, 28, 29. I just think that's just too much. Two, we've got to figure out, like, Santa Clara just signed a guy from the G League.
Yes.
Like, are we taking guys? So are we able now to recruit guys who, I told our staff, should we be looking at two-way contract guys in the NBA who just graduated, maybe they played 1 year in the G League and they still were within their 5-year clock and maybe they're not having a good career. Should we try to go recruit them and see because are they going to be eligible? So that's got to be cleaned up. That includes overseas players. Like, are we just saying anyone that's a pro, and even if they in a first-round draft pick, if they're a pro overseas, just anybody 5 years, the second year in your graduating class, you have 5 years. If you were the number one pick in the draft, you can go back to school, and if you haven't ever entered college, we got to figure those two areas out.
So I'm glad you brought up that Santa Clara situation. I'm blanking on his name, but we've been out on this trip out here to out west, and so I haven't been able to read all the details of how that ruling came down. I don't know if you know any more about it, and
well, the ruling was, so here's a young man that played in the G League.
Yes.
And was paid, and he's a professional athlete. This is unheard of in college athletics. Never before would you be allowed to go back to college. You've exhausted your eligibility. Yeah. You have an agent, or a professional agent, not just an NIL agent, but a sports agent. You've been in the, you're playing professional it's a professional basketball league. I think the way they looked at it, he was within his 5-year window of this graduating class, and they said that, okay, this is similar to the overseas. So the players that we're allowing to be eligible from overseas, what's the difference between that and the G League? And I think that's the way they looked at it, and they cleared them. Total game changer in the way that how things will be going moving forward.
Do you think that transforms everything?
I think that based on that ruling, because there's case precedent. And I do think it changes everything. I think as they move forward, it's just to my point, in my personal opinion, they're going to get to, you have 5 years to play you have 5 years after your graduating class, that is. So if you graduate in 2026, you have 5 years. If you took 2 more years to graduate high school, then that counts into your 5 years. And if you went to the G League and you were in your 5-year window and you wanted to come back to play, now you can't go play, you can't go to play at UNLV, go to the NBA draft, be a pro, then come back.
Yeah, sure.
But if you haven't entered college ever and you've been a pro and you want to come back, you're more than welcome to do that.
All right,
I think that's the way it's going to.
Let's talk about your team this year. And you can start wherever you want from a roster perspective. You have to put this entire team together. How do you like your team so far as we kind of approach opening night here, about a month away by the time this comes out? How do you like your roster, and what are some of the highlights that you've seen so far?
Yeah, look, in our roster, as I talked about, in putting the roster together, I felt we did a nice job on the evaluation process. That was important to us. We put a lot of emphasis on shooting and toughness. We are banged up right now. We've had 2 guys with foot surgery. We've had one kid a shoulder separation, one kid adductor strain. We've had a concussion. We've had multiple concussions, but we've been going pretty intense and physical and contact in our practices. So We're banged up. I don't know if we'll be fully healthy by the start of the first game. I just don't know. But we'll see. And we've got to be able to, in our world, make sure that I think probably our biggest opponent's health. We've got to stay healthy. That's a big thing for us. I don't know how we'll be in November. I hope we're ready to go. But I do think, in my kind of North Star, in a sense, I want us to compete and have a chance to win the Mountain West regular season championship. Like that's a big deal. If you can win a regular season, I don't know if I understand this is the road to the Final Four, but winning a regular season championship, and it's going to be very hard to do. It's going to be a big challenge, but I want to try to put ourselves in that position. That's my whole focus on that.
So I've said this a million times on the show, but I'll say it again to you. I am an East Coast guy, but I love watching the Mountain West because I'm always up recording this show late at night, and the Mountain West is always on my TV. And I love watching
great basketball leagues.
UNLV, New Mexico, Boise State. You go down the list.
Yep.
This is going to be your first season in the Mountain West, but what have been your first impressions of it?
Well, just from being in television and being in basketball,
around,
I know it's a great league, great coaches, great programs. I think there's really good players and guys who are maybe some undersized 5 men who are really hard matchups. I think this league's filtered with guys who are hard matchups. Like I said, tremendous coaches in this league. Maybe the best of any league. And I was in the ACC at the prime ACC when you had like 6 Hall of Fame coaches and 3 more are going to be in the Hall of Fame. And every time we stepped on the floor, it felt like there was going to be 3 more. There was going to be 3 pros on every team we played. There's 3 or 4 pros. I mean, literally, it was incredible, that league. It was incredible. And incredible coaches. But I really think maybe the best home court advantages in all of college basketball are right here in the Mountain West. When you think of some of the different places, you think of New Mexico, the Pit. You're thinking of Utah State. You think of Wyoming or Colorado State, the excitement of the crowds. Obviously we got to get Thomas and Mack Center filled back up here at UNLV. So there's incredible home court advantages in this league, maybe the best of all conferences.
All right, your non-conference schedule going back to Memphis this year?
We're in a really tough non-conference schedule. We're at Memphis. First time I'm back since I was the head coach there. Yep. So that would be a great game. Hopefully I get a nice ovation there. We'll see. Who knows? I don't know. I think I will, though. I've got tremendous friends. I got 4 kids. 3 of my daughters. My 3 daughters were all born in Memphis there, and we loved our time in Memphis. Loved Memphis. We're playing in the Players Era tournament. We got Maryland, open up with Maryland and Coach Buzz Williams, who I think is one of the best coaches in the game, by the way. He's a tremendous coach. Go look at this stat. I'm giving Buzz and I love Buzz. I've known Buzz.
This is how we go viral. This is to Buzz Williams.
Okay, so Buzz has been at Marquette, had over 100 wins. Then from there went to Virginia Tech, over 100 wins. Then from Virginia Tech went to Texas A&M, over 100 wins. He's here at Maryland. I don't know how many coaches in there. I think there's only maybe 1 or 2 coaches in the history who've been to 4 schools. This is going to be his 4th school that has potential to get over 100 wins. Go look that stat up. It's a credit to Buzz Williams. I think he's one of the best coaches. Then we're in Alabama. Then we play Alabama. Obviously, Nate Oates, one of the best out there. And then we don't know our 3rd game opponent. We play St. Joe's at home. I mean, an A-10 game, that's a big, important game. The A-10, Mountain West. We've got some other really good games at Stanford.
Yep.
We got a tough non-conference. And heck, we open up, we play UT Martin, Chattanooga, who is the NIT champs, Montana, who's a Big Sky champs. And we got to, listen, this is what I inherited, this tough schedule. My goodness gracious. But that's the great challenge of it. It is a hard schedule, but you know what? It should get us ready and prepare us for Mountain West play.
I was going to ask, do you inherit that Memphis game, or did you?
I inherited the Memphis game. They had played Memphis here last year, so it was already inherited.
That's what I assumed when I was looking at it.
A lot of times when you take over a job, the schedule for that upcoming year is pretty much set.
Okay, so my take on the Players Era is probably different than a lot of college basketball fans, because a lot of fans would say that the Players Era is ruining Maui or Atlantis or some of the traditional MTEs out there. But I think the Players Era, getting all of these teams, all of these fantastic programs in one place and doing the tournament the way that they're doing it, is fantastic for the sport and the eyeballs that week. I know it doesn't have the pageantry of Maui, which is fantastic. I know it doesn't have Atlantis or some of those other things, but I think the Players Era festival is phenomenal for the sport.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's like a mini Final Four.
Yeah, that's
it's
what
like
I
a mini
mean.
NCAA tournament in a sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you have, and next year it's going to 32 teams. Everybody wants to be in the players era. Everybody does. It's the place to be. It's an incredible deal. We're so excited to be part of it. And everyone you play is incredible competition. Obviously, it's a dream scenario for the NBA because every NBA team can be here, be in one location and see all these different pro prospects. Great for fans of basketball that just want to come and watch a bunch of great games. It's really a mini NCAA tournament. It's just instead of being in March and with all the fanfare, it's in November. But it's hopefully it continues to build. It's going to be a great deal of more fanfare, and we're happy and excited to be part of it. And it's the only tournament of its kind that the winner gets. You're making money. You win. You get it's no different than the in-season tournament of the NBA. The winner of the in-season tournament NBA gets a nice purse in a sense, of their monies. And so it's the same thing here. Yes, it's tied to NIL. I get it, but the reality of it is, you win the tournament, you get money. You get more money than everybody else in the field. That bottom line.
So we talked about Maui. There's a surfboard right here to your left. Have you been to Maui? Have you done that tournament?
I've done Maui both when I was multiple times when I played at the University of Arizona and an assistant at the University of Arizona, and then took our team when I was the head coach at Memphis to Maui, and then we were in Diamond Head when I was at Georgia Tech. So I've been over there. Hawaii is an awesome state, and I tell you what, they're coming in next year into the league, into the Mountain West. That's going to be a great trip to go there, but it's going to be a hard place to win. I'm just telling you, that's a great home court advantage that they have there in Honolulu.
Josh Pastner, just to finish up here on this interview.
You guys are awesome, by the way. I've had a blast.
I appreciate
we
you.
could keep going for another 30 minutes. Well, you got to catch a flight. You got to get back. He's going to want to talk to all these different Big Ten schools, the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12. What about the Mountain West? We need some more. That's why I'm glad he's here. The more pub for the Mountain West, the better. He's so worried about these. Everyone's talking about these other Big Four conferences. It's all about the Mountain West now.
Coach, really appreciate you sitting down today. How did you think this went?
I think it was great. I think this is awesome. I think you got a chance to be a stud. You are a stud. Your thing's going to continue to grow. You guys are all great, and I appreciate you guys being here at UNLV.
No, really, we were here a couple of years ago. I was here for the first time into this facility when Xavier practiced here. I came out here when they played in the Continental Tire and was able to kind of see the facilities and everything, but have not seen a game in Thomas and Mack. Hopefully,
you need to come back, and we got to get that thing. We got to get that thing rocking and rolling again. Everyone tells me that during those 80s and 90s run with UNLV, it was
Canyon days.
It was a spectacle. It was showtime before showtime. Like people would fly in, they called it Gucci Row, where everyone would sit in the front row. Like you wanted to be seen on front row here, kind of like the Lakers games are. Yeah. That's how it was here at UNLV. And I can't tell you, even in recruiting, obviously the guys that we recruit, nobody was born during that time.
Yeah.
But you know who everyone's favorite team or their favorite program is the coaches and the parents of the recruits. They said, man, I loved UNLV. That was my first team, my first jersey. I loved Stacey Augmon and Grandmama Larry Johnson. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They called the Plastic Man and Stacey Augmon. And, you see these shirts people wear of Larry Johnson and Stacey Augmon. Someone was just telling me this other day when UNLV played at Miami, Ohio football, a good supporter of ours was at the game, wore this Larry Johnson and Stacey Augmon shirt from back in, and he said more people came up just to talk about that shirt than anything else in Miami of Ohio at the football game.
Heck of a football game.
It was a heck of they were down 14 3 different times.
I know.
And UNLV, hey, UNLV's 4-0 in football. As much as I want this to be a basketball school, it's football right now, baby. 4-0. Dan Mullen's got this thing rolling right now. They're going into the playoffs. Mark my word, UNLV is going to be in the college football playoffs. Dan Mullen is unbelievable. And he was a great TV guy, too. He had Mississippi State at number 1 in the country. Mississippi State number 1 in the country. Great coach at Florida. And he's doing an unbelievable job here at UNLV.
I could not have said any of that better myself. Josh,
thank you, Paul.
No, I got one more thing. Can I ask you to ask people to subscribe to the Rebound Rundown?
Yeah. Rebound Rundown, right?
Rebound Rundown.
Make sure that you subscribe to the Rebound Rundown. This is important. This is great content. You got great people he's going to be interviewing, great coaches, great knowledge. I might be his worst guest of them all.
That's not true.
But I will tell you that it's worth subscribing to this. He's a star in the making. Let's get him big time. Let's go. We got to get them all on board on that. Subscribe ASAP.
Thank you, Josh Pastner. This has been another episode of the Rebound Rundown. Tune in soon for more content as we approach opening night on November 3rd of the college basketball season. Thanks for watching and listening, everybody.